In Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted 2, the player will come across a section of 6 graves. Now, these 6 graves have sparked heated discussion, with some YouTubers believing it to be solved already. Now, that isn't the case, and I'll explain why in just a moment. These 6 graves have 6 dolls placed on them: Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, Golden Freddy, and the puppet. Each doll has a lantern sit right next to it, meaning every lantern is meant to be associated with a specific character. When the lanterns are lit up properly, we not only have a sequence of 0 to 5, we also have a sequence of characters which goes from the following. Chica is number 0, Foxy is 1, Freddy is 2, Bonnie is 3, Golden Freddy is 4, and the puppet is 5. Now, fans and YouTubers were quick to jump on the idea that the order may tie into the order of the victims' deaths, and the most common one was because that withered Chica said she was the first. Susie must have been the first to die out of all the victims.
I was the first. I have seen everything.
And thus meaning that the puppet actually died last. However, there's a few major things wrong with this assessment, and people have this entirely wrong. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let me give you a quick refresher. By completing a certain amount of hidden objectives, the player can find a set of 6 dolls wearing masks based on several different animatronic characters. The characters are Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, Golden Freddy, and the puppet. And after collecting all 6, the player then gets access to the Princess Quest arcade machine in the back room. Following this path will lead you to the ending where you have the giant vanny and you're inside that claw machine. But just before you get to the ending, the player is required to light up 6 different lanterns in the courtyard outside of the castle, with each lantern sitting next to the gravestone on one of the 6 dolls. Lighting the lanterns in any order will lead to the door opening. However, if you light them in the specific order from 0 to 5, indicated by the dots placed within the gravestones, an optional path containing a Bonnie mask will open up and reveal more information about the story of Help Wanted 2. Now, as I said earlier, the correct order to get the Bonnie mask is Chica first, Foxy, Freddy, Bonnie, Golden Freddy, then the puppet. Now again, as I said earlier, fans were quick to jump all over this, YouTubers included, saying this solves the mystery of the deaths, who came first, who came last. And that isn't the case, and let me explain why. The first major contradiction with this is from Henry himself in Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Simulator, where a recording of Henry himself can be found, and in this recording, Henry talks about wanting to take his own life, but feeling obligated to stick around at least until he can fix his crimes of William Afton. And this is what he says.
I could make myself sleep, but not yet. Not until I undo what he has done and heal this wound. A wound first inflicted on me, but then one that I let bleed out to cause all of this.
Now, Henry's talking about a wound first inflicted on him, key being first. What Henry's actually talking about is the death of his daughter, Charlotte, who then went on to possess the puppet. It sounds to me like Charlotte's death was first in the timeline, and that the deaths of the missing children followed after hers. If that's the case, then Charlotte can't very well be the last of the victims of this gravestone mystery. But that isn't the only bit of evidence, there's plenty more coming up, with one part being absolutely massive. Now, another bit of evidence comes from Henry, again from Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Simulator, and it's the completion ending. Henry takes a moment to speak to Charlotte before everyone underneath the restaurant is destroyed by the fire, and this is what he says.
I couldn't save you then, so let me save you now. It's time to rest, for you, and for those you have carried in your arms. This ends for all of us.
Now, this could easily be interpreted as Charlotte died before the other victims, as she was there to carry the missing children in her arms, helping them to be reborn again through the animatronics and the happiest day minigame, because if she were the last one, then she wouldn't be able to help the spirits in the way Henry just said she did. So that's the second bit of evidence to go against the fact that these gravestones are the order the kids died. Immediately, we're having 2 conflicting reports here. So if the gravestone order is actually wrong, what is the correct order then? Well, let me continue to explain. Now, this isn't the most groundbreaking idea, but I need you to hear this entire theory out. First off, we need to reverse the order of the death's victims on the gravestones. So with Henry himself actually telling us that Charlotte was meant to be the first victim, as it happens, reversing the order allows for that to be the case. It would look like this: Charlotte being patient 0, Cassidy, who becomes Golden Freddy, Jeremy, who's Bonnie, Gabriel, who's Freddy, Fritz, who's presumably inside of Foxy, and Susie, who's last, who's Chica. But you might be asking yourself, well, how do you actually know to put these backwards? What would give you that impression? Well, easy. Princess Quest 4 is the inverse of Princess Quest 1. But what do I mean by that? Now, in Princess Quest 1, we had to light the lanterns in a certain order previously, and Princess Quest 4 hints to us that we're doing so now serves to reverse what we've already done. The order is intentionally wrong, and this isn't the first time this has happened in the franchise. Scott Cawthon and Steelwood Studios would plan to do something like this, and in fact, they actually did this in the war code sequence from FNAF 3, remember? Because in order to access the Stage 1 minigame, players had to press the tiles on the office wall in a number pad, and the input code was 395248. On its own, that number doesn't really mean anything, but reversed, it becomes 842593, which is a hex code for purple color. And each of the FNAF minigames serves to essentially undo the actions of William Afton by allowing the missing children to move on and be put to rest, essentially cleaning up Afton's mess. Players literally had to reverse what was going on, and I believe Help Wanted 2, that's exactly what's happening here. Now you may be saying, well, TA, you're looking into this too deeply. Well, wouldn't that be the case for all the other games where all this has come to light? Obviously not. They intentionally put these tombstones backwards. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't them forgetting the law. They've done this on purpose. And the Princess Quest 4 tombstones is exactly the same thing. The end goal of the game is to destroy Glitch Trap once and for all. I mean, you can even find the code 395248 on the back of the Faz wrench in Ruin. And what are we doing with this code and the Faz wrench throughout the entirety of Ruin? That's right, we're going back and correcting past mistakes. We're rebooting the daycare attendant, reinstating Eclipse, electrocuting Monty with it. We're using this code to heal the Pizzaplex, just like it was previously used to heal all the wounds and destruction that was caused by William Afton. And that same Faz wrench itself is what gets the player into the Princess Quest 4 minigame machine. And don't worry, if you're not convinced yet, you soon will be, because there's even more evidence coming up. Does anyone remember the Pizzaplex balloons? Now, these were a set of coloured balloons in the Pizzaplex's prize counter, and they weren't really brought up until the infamous Bonnie Bowl tally marks from Ruin. But with the release of Help Wanted 2, these may now have their proper meaning, as the colours on these balloons could actually match up with the animatronics and reveal the actual true death order. Now, it doesn't take a rocket science to match the colours of the balloons to the colours of the animatronics, but what is extremely interesting is the numbers they represent, because you might be asking yourself, well, why is each animatronic assigned a number like this? And again, the answer is fairly simple when you put all the pieces together. The numbers represent the gravestones, because if you remember, we're actually reversing the order of the gravestones. In other words, Bonnie is 2, Foxy is 4, and Chica is 5, and the colour of the balloons match the corresponding animatronic, with the number matching the graves. But there is one huge problem with this. Now, when people believe that Chica was the first victim, they're not just making that up, because this aligns with Withered Chica's testimony from Ultimate Custom Night, where when she kills the player, she says one of these lines: "I was the first, I have seen everything."
I was the first. I have seen everything.
And if that was the case, that doesn't match up with the death order we're talking about, and it certainly wouldn't match up with the reverse order, because that would make Susie the last one to die if it was reversed, not first. But what if we've been mistaken Withered Chica's meaning this whole time? What if she's actually telling us that Susie wasn't the first, Chica was? But then how does that make any sense with the tombstones? Well, let me continue to explain. Now, if you remember, if the puppet did come first, she's the one that then brings all the animatronics to life. And if you look at the Give Gifts, Give Life minigame, Chica is the first one in the top left-hand corner. This now makes sense. Chica was the first one to be brought to life. She'd seen it all. She'd seen the other ones be brought to life before her. This obviously means that the death order and possession order will be slightly different, but we're focusing on the death order here, not the possession. And let's not forget, the possession order is all but confirmed in the Pizza Party minigame from Help Wanted 1. Now, if we use that game as evidence, we play as a person called Gabriel, and they're lured backstage before being killed and made to possess the one and only Freddy Fazbear. But just before that happens, sitting in the cake room, we can see the other animatronics, Bonnie and Chica, both in a state of relative disrepair. Whilst Freddy isn't complete yet because his torso is on the floor, the same goes for Foxy. Now, many people believe, including myself, that the Bonnie and Chica are already possessed at this stage, because Freddy and Foxy are already in pieces. Now, if we believe that Chica was meant to be the first one possessed, this tells us that Bonnie was the second, as we know, Freddy was the third, as we know, Foxy is the fourth, as we know, all but confirming the possession order, not the death order. Things are never as they first appear in FNAF. We know this from the original FNAF 1 game, going right up to the present day. And the gravestone's normal order is literally the order of the deaths, but in reverse. We need to stop taking things at face value with FNAF. We need to wait for things to appear in the next game, because everything is not as it seems in FNAF. You should know this. I know this. Now, does that mean that this theory is 100% correct? Of course it doesn't. I could be wrong. I could be right. But that's the beauty of the community. We can build on these theories together, and I'd love for you to tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Speaking of community, I'd like to thank Retro Beetle from Reddit, whose Reddit post helped me create and structure this video. So if you enjoyed it, don't forget to check out all my other videos on the channel, like and subscribe, because there's plenty more stuff coming up if you enjoyed this. I'm Twisted Animatronic. Stay safe out there, superstars.